So welcome to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel. My name's Connor. I'm joined today by Imani. Is it Imani Pullum? Is that how you say it properly?
Yeah, it's Imani Pullum.
Imani Pullum, fantastic. Great to be speaking with you today. And obviously, fans of the Orville will know you in recent weeks as you played Topa in what I thought was a very groundbreaking episode, A Tale of Two Topas. But I suppose before we dig into that, what kind of made you want to be an actor in the first place, and what kind of put you on that path?
Yeah, so I started acting when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I mostly did commercials and stuff because my neighbor, her daughter is an actor, and she suggested that my parents put me in acting. And I took a little break from that for a bit. And then I started up again at 13. And that's when I decided that I really just wanted to focus on acting. Yeah.
For sure. And you might have to correct me here, but I believe from what I've read is that away from your professional work, you're a student at NYU at the moment, or you have been anyway. And are you still currently, just to double check that?
Yeah, I'm still currently
Cool.
a student at NYU. So I'll be starting my sophomore year in the fall.
Yeah, and you're studying at Tisch, I believe, right? Which is obviously the very, very prestigious acting school. So I suppose how has that prepared you to take on professional roles, as your career goes on?
Well, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself, doing work in the program and just my habits and what makes me feel the most comfortable. And I feel like that's been really helpful for sure in helping me with my acting. But I haven't been able to work on it. Well, I worked on Emancipation, which is a film that I'm going to be in a month after being at school. So I got to kind of test my skills a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Throwing it into the deep end kind of thing, would you say? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Quite a jump to go from the school to then being in that film. Because I believe, isn't that Will Smith is in that as well?
Yeah. So I had to go to New Orleans for a month during the school year, which was kind of touchy, especially because I just started school. So I didn't know how receptive my professors would be to doing that. So, yeah. But it ended up working out, which was nice.
Yeah. I suppose just to touch on the Orville, as I mentioned, you played Topa. It was 2 or 3 weeks ago now, the episode came out on Hulu. And I would say, that episode in particular relies on having seen previous episodes. It definitely continues a story that's been going on for a while. So were you familiar with the Orville or with the character of Topa before you stepped into it?
So before the audition, I wasn't familiar with the Orville, but of course, after I did my research on Moclans in Topa and just because the Moclan species is very specific, the tone of their voices, the inflection, the body movement, and that's pretty true about all the species of aliens. I just need to make sure that I got it right and I looked like a Moclan and I felt like a Moclan, so had to do a little research on that. Yeah, for sure.
And it's one of many examples of the show kind of exploring a relevant real world issue through this science fiction lens. So I suppose how did you kind of find that balance of you're kind of addressing a very real topic in the context of it being a science fiction show? How did you kind of find that balance?
Well, I think my main focus throughout this grounded as possible. So even though I'm not doing my normal speaking voice, just making sure that my emotion is coming across throughout the whole time, throughout the whole episode. So a difficult balance, but I'm happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, I was actually wondering about that. You mentioned that, the speaking voice. So was that purely you affecting your voice in the moment, or was that, how did they kind of pull that off of the pre-surgery Topa voice? What was, how was that pulled off basically?
So when I was doing the pre-transition scenes, I was using a deeper speaking voice than I normally do, but not as deep as it ended up being in the show. They adjusted the pitch and stuff like that. But then after, I was using my normal pitch, but just varied inflection. So yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, the episode, very apt title, because you do play two versions of Topa in the episode. Obviously, for the most part, you're playing like the, confused, kind of like, discovering who she is for most of it. And then at the very end, we kind of get to see Topa realizing the realized version of who she was looking to be. And so I suppose then, like going forward, like how do you think you've tried to differentiate like the pre, transition Topa to like the Topa we've seen for the most part, which is the one who was really confused and didn't really know, about their gender identity, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I tried to make the distinction decently clear because in the beginning, like, there were no smiles on my face. The first time throughout the whole episode was when I looked at when Topa looks at herself in the mirror after the surgery, the very first smile. And just like with the physicality piece, after the surgery, she's a lot more free. And not too much because she's still a Moclan and they're a little stiffer, but a little bit of freedom in the arm movement and just like a weight is lifted. So it's kind of subtle, but I just wanted to make it a little bit clear that she's happy and comfortable in her skin.
Yeah, and I was going to say, especially to everyone who plays a Moclan, obviously that's yourself, Peter Macon, Chad Coleman primarily, and like the fact that you can pull off so much like with your faces, because obviously kind of constricted with the the makeup and the prosthetics, I imagine. But one of the things that really got me in the episode was a small moment of when you walk onto the bridge and you kind of have that moment with Bortus, who's played by Peter Macon, and obviously you just you kind of like the acknowledgement and just you're saying so much with your faces, and it's just really powerful. I thought it's just how much you're able to emote without saying a word, and we're not having the full use of what you would normally have, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was definitely like my favorite part of the whole episode was filming that and getting to watch it. I did cry a little bit because it just meant a lot to see that and to see her finally be happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of people who, again, it being in the context of a science fiction show, I'm sure there's a lot of people who could relate to the overall kind of themes in the episode and take a lot away, learning wise. And yeah, very, very timely, very relevant, and it was very well executed. As I've said, it was really well done.
Yeah, it's an amazing, there's such an amazing cast and crew. Like, I'm so happy that they allowed me to be a part of it and just help tell Topa's story. So really incredible experience that I'm so thankful for.
Absolutely. And obviously I've mentioned Peter Macon and Chad Coleman, who play Topa's parents, Bortus and Clyden, but you also had a lot of screen time with Adrian Palicki in that episode. And I suppose, like, how was the overall experience of working with all three of them? They're all very accomplished actors, and obviously you stepping in to the show in that episode, like, how was your experience of working with them?
It was incredible, like getting to work with all of them, because they're, as you said, they're all such great actors and they're very successful and they just know what they're doing. So seeing them like be able to take control of like the scenes in the room was so inspiring, and they're just super helpful and so kind and really like welcoming to me.
Absolutely. And again, kind of like this episode, it follows on from, I believe the storyline started as early as like the second episode of the whole show. And it's kind of like, kind of come full circle of the plot of that episode being like, should we have this surgery to make Topa male? And now it's kind of come back around, and reversing that surgery to here we find Topa, being the rightful female that she was always meant to be. But I suppose now that that's in place, what can you tease about Topa's kind of future on the show now that that circle's kind of been completed?
Well, there's not a whole lot I can say about
Sure, of course.
Topa,
yeah.
But I mean, I'm excited to see what's next for her and Topa's future. So she's got a bright future ahead of her. Yeah.
Absolutely, and obviously, in addition to the Orville, you've done, quite a few other projects actually. I know you were in the revival of All That for Nickelodeon, and I suppose, very very different to the Orville. I suppose there's, somewhat of a comedy similarity to an extent. But I mean, how was your experience of being a part of that show?
It was really cool to be a part of that show, and like I'm a huge fan of the original series, so to see that come back around was really exciting. And I got to work on the first episode and then another episode. I can't remember exactly which one, but like being a part of the first episode of that was really cool and super exciting to see.
Absolutely. And I know another big one was that, and this is like, you know, a really cool role, but you were in The Lion King on Broadway. Is that right?
Well, I toured with the company, the national touring company of Lion King. So I got to go to a lot of different cool places. I was about 12 when I started. I ended when I was 13. So it was a really awesome experience. And I feel like I learned a whole lot while I was there. I grew up a lot during the time that I was there. And yeah, really cool experience.
Yeah. And I suppose for like fans of that story, I mean, you played the younger version of Nala, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So that's you know, a very pivotal role to play, I think, in the overall story of that.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, and obviously, again, another big project you mentioned was Emancipation, you know, with Will Smith. And I mean, you kind of touched on it already, but I mean, having done obviously the live theatre, you know, television with the Orville and all that, like how was kind of working on a feature film in comparison to at least what you'd already done at that point? I don't know if you'd done the Orville yet when you shot Emancipation, but at least compared to what you had done up to that point, how different was doing a feature film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I did Emancipation after filming the Orville.
Okay.
I finished filming the Orville like during the summer, right before I started college, and then Emancipation I filmed in like November. So yeah, I had a little bit of time in between. So it was nice because I felt like comfortable going on set because I'd worked on the Orville at that point. So I was like, okay, kind of know how things go. But you know, it's definitely a little different because it's a film versus a television show.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it helped a lot working on the Orville for sure. And like making sure that it helped me feel comfortable enough to get grounded and feel like I'm able to do the best work that I can do when I got on set.
Yeah. It just occurred to me actually, would playing a television character like Topa kind of feel almost like the odd one out? Because obviously in a theatre show, it's the same like script, you know, it's the same, it's the same, you know, performances, just different audiences. And obviously with a film, you know, the beginning and the end. So like it's playing like a continuous character like Topa where you don't really know straight away like where the story's going. Like, does that feel different to you compared to what you've done in the past?
Kind of, a little bit different. I'd say it's more similar to the film, but very different from doing The Lion King because like you said, it was the same thing over and over again. And like I do enjoy theater. I thought it was really exciting to do that, but that was part of the reason why I was like, oh, I don't know that I'd want to like pursue theater like, I don't know, most of the time because it got a little repetitive for me. But it was still exciting, and I feel like I learned a lot from doing that.
Yeah, and it's actually the last question I've got prepared because I know we haven't got you know, a whole lot of time left. But and you sound, you know, you sound quite busy. You sound like you've done quite a lot of projects anyway in a short space of time. But I suppose in a wider sense, what would you like to accomplish with the rest of 2022?
That's a good question. I mean, well, hopefully I'll finish my first semester of the sophomore year of college. So that's one thing. And hopefully another cool project will come in. I'm really open to anything. I like to do things that are just totally different. So yeah, I'm cool with that. That'd be exciting and really thrilling for me.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, you know, big congrats again on the episode of the Orville, and just, you know, best of luck with everything going forward. I'm sure you'll shine, you know, bright as your career goes on. And just, you know, thanks for taking the time to speak with me today, and all the best. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.